Hey guys, Alex Leo here with StrokeBar.com. Today in this video we're going to talk about our shoulder positioning and trunk counter rotation during the leg lift phase of our delivery. Torso counter rotation during the leg lift phase is defined as the rotation of the pitcher's torso away from the intended target during the leg lift phase of the pitching delivery. As we can see here by observing Tim Lincecum during his leg lift, he is counter rotating his torso away from the intended target. This is just one example of torso counter rotation, which is what we will be discussing today in this video. A couple key notes about torso counter rotation during the leg lift are, depending on the degree of the pitcher's pelvic coil during the leg lift, the level of counter rotation is usually directly affected. Tim Lincecum coils his pelvis a ton during the leg lift and is a back third leg lift guy, so you can see he counter rotates his torso more than a Jacob deGrom, who is a front third leg lift guy with minimal pelvic coil integrated into his leg lift. Something that is important to mention here is that no matter what, the pitcher should be counter-rotating the torso to some degree so that the pitcher's shoulders are more closed off than a neutral, shoulders directly in line with the target position at peak leg lift. Some of the benefits of implementing torso counter-rotation into your mechanics are, 1. It can help increase the amount of rotational energy possible in the pitcher's delivery by increasing the range the pitcher can rotate with the upper half into ball release. If we look at rotational athletes in other sports, most of the time we see them counter-rotate before performing the rotational action they are intending to perform. Second on my list, counter rotation can help sequence the timing of torso rotation so that the lower half rotates before the upper half rotates, which increases hip-shoulder separation into front foot strike. Counter rotation can also help players who rotate with the upper half prematurely to rotate at the correct time. I find that oftentimes pitchers that don't counter rotate during the leg lift phase oftentimes prematurely open with their torso ahead of front foot strike, so this can be a simple fix for a big problem. Lastly, it can also increase the range of the arm path into ball release, which can help players integrate more rotational forces into the throwing arm and into the baseball. Now let's take a look at a few pro examples. Here I have Jacob deGrom. The blue line indicates deGrom's shoulder line at the start of his leg lift, and the orange line indicates where his shoulder line is at peak leg lift. As we can clearly see, as deGrom is lifting his leg, he is counter-rotating his torso and his shoulders end up in a more closed-off position than they were at the beginning of his leg lift. In this next pro example, I have Marcus Stroman. As you watch Marcus lift his lead leg, notice how his torso is counter-rotating. Again, the blue line indicates the shoulder alignment of Marcus at the beginning of his leg lift, and the orange line indicates where he is at peak leg lift. By observing these lines, we can clearly see that Marcus is counter-rotating with his torso during his leg lift. Lastly, I have Tim Lincecum. As you can see, Tim really coils his pelvis during his leg lift, and as a result, he really counter-rotates his torso during his leg lift. Tim is definitely an outlier when it comes to counter-rotation, so be careful trying to replicate his degree of counter-rotation with youth players. In conclusion, pitchers should be counter-rotating to some degree during their leg lift. This helps pitchers increase the amount of rotational energy that can be transferred up the kinetic chain and into the baseball. Trunk counter rotation also can help players sequence their upper half into the throw, preventing common issues such as premature torso rotation. Next, let's take a look at a couple torso counter rotation drills that you can implement into your throwing routine. All right, guys, in this drill, we're going to take a look at our trunk counter rotation and our shoulder positioning during the leg lift phase. So, depending on your style of leg lift, whether you're a straight up and down guy, to the front third, middle third, or back third, it's going to kind of dictate how much trunk counter rotation and shoulder counter rotation we're getting during the leg lift. But just note that no matter what kind of leg lift you have, I've observed tons of pros on this, and every single one gets a certain degree of trunk counter rotation, meaning their trunk is counter rotating like this. So this drill is just a very simple drill. We're going to get a PVC pipe, kind of get like a crisscross arm position here, hold it like this, and essentially you're just going to practice your leg lift. So if I'm a front third leg lift guy, I'm going to lift up, get some counter rotation. So I'm starting neutral, pointed straight at the target in this drill, and then I'm just going to get some counter rotation there. So it looks something like this. If I'm back third leg lift guy, I'm going to get a little more. If I'm a middle third leg lift guy, I'm just going to get a little bit. And this PVC pipe kind of just helps you see that our torso is counter rotating. So you'll be straight up here, and then as you rotate, you'll kind of see that torso is counter rotating. Just a very simple drill, but one that I think could be useful for kind of teaching players how to get that trunk counter rotation. All right, guys, another drill that I use to work on just trunk counter rotation during the leg lift phase is just, I kind of just utilize this preset flip up position, and I'll just come set. And what we want to do, looking at the camera, is start with your shoulder positioning neutral. I know when we come set in real life, we do want a slight bit of shoulder counter rotation, but just for this drill, since we're focusing on the leg lift portion of this, we'll start neutral and we'll kind of just preset here. And then as we lift into our leg lift, we want to generate a little trunk counter rotation, okay? So it'll look something like this. You'll just come preset, you'll come here, and then you'll lift. And as you can see, as I lifted, I counter rotated. So again, here, lift. One more time. Here, lift. There's one more. Lift. And so essentially what that one's doing is we're just isolating the movement of counter rotating with the torso while we're just presetting our arm to be flipped up, so we're not worried about our arm path or anything like that, just to isolate that movement of trunk counter rotation.